This week on Florida's Fourth Estate, an impossible lawsuit. A man suing Burger King for cooking his vegan burger in meat juice. That's because it's been broiled in meat flavor. I could eat that too. Plus, normally you might win concert tickets from a radio station. These people won a human being.
It's crazy. Never ever thought that we would, win a baby, as they say.
This week's Floridiot decided to rob a bank without a getaway car.
So he eventually got a ride.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the ride he was hoping for.
And our guest, Central Florida real estate titan Jenny Wemert. What is the state of Florida's real estate and why the rich are bringing their cash this way?
People from the Northeast are saying, they can almost come here, double the price that they're spending on a property, and almost for free.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Florida's Fourth Estate, where we break down everything that has to do with Florida. We are breaking down a critical aspect of it, of living here in this beautiful state today. My name is Matt Austin.
And I'm Ginger Gatz, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, we have an excellent guest today. Okay, I'm talking a real estate titan in Central Florida.
Ooh.
Started out as just a regular realtor. There's 1,000 of them. Some people say they're a dime a dozen.
Not good ones.
No, this one ended up growing, and now like 50 people work for you.
Members, sure.
No pressure. You've got your own place, and you're selling like $250 million in real estate.
Holy
this year.
cow.
So
That's
congratulations on all your success. This is Jenny Wemert of the Wemert Group.
Thank you.
That's quite
Happy
a
to be
build-up.
here.
Yeah, that's good though. He's been talking about you for a while, so we're excited to have you on finally.
Thank you.
I have been wanting to break down Florida real estate for a while because we were crushed during the big recession, and a lot of people want to know, is this a good time to sell my house? Are we in another bubble? Is this a good time to rent? So we're
many
going
questions.
to break down all of this with someone who comes very highly recommended to me. One of my favorite people on earth, Tony Galarza, works
That's
with
right.
you.
That's right.
And so he has nothing but the greatest things to say about you. Excited to talk to you about real estate, but first we always have to dive into some headlines.
I know, and we warned you that some of these stories are kind of crazy, but feel free to chime in if you'd like to, because we're going to start with the story. I mean, I used to work at a Burger King. It was my it was my first job. I was 16 and working at a Burger King. And now, everyone's going plant-based, and so is Burger King. So they have this Impossible Whopper thing. Well, one guy who's a vegan does not think that they're being very honest. He says that he tried it, and definitely there are meat byproducts in it. And I don't know what meat byproducts, what that means. Or it's not pink slime or sludge or whatever they call it. But he says, they put the regular Whopper on the grill, and then they put the Impossible Whopper on the same grill. And I feel like that's someone who has an allergy to nuts. You can't prepare those two things in the same area. So he's suing Burger King, and he's suing on behalf of not just himself, but everyone else who's tried the Impossible Whopper.
Hold on now, because you can't have an allergy to meat. It's not like his throat's going to swell up.
Well, but some people just don't want any animal to come in contact with what they're eating. It's like, I only want plants. So if you're going to have a beefy Whopper, patty on the thing, and then the next one is the Impossible, you're getting some of that beefy.
Oh, what are you going to say? You can't keep them in the same fridge now? I mean, Burger King's trying to accommodate people.
Well,
and now they're getting sued for it.
They're not doing a good enough job with this guy. But I kind of agree with him. If you're going to say it's vegan, it has to be completely 100%. It can't touch any animal products. It's like saying, oh, I'm not going to, eat animals, but you're wearing leather shoes, Matt.
Now, I will say, Burger King says that there is a meat-free option, a non-broiler method of preparation available upon request.
Well, that's what everyone should be getting. You shouldn't have to request that because that's what they're selling it as, I think. But anyway.
You would take the vegan side.
I know, but I've not tried one. I've tried a little piece of it. Like my husband has tried it a couple of times, and he's really impressed with the way it tastes.
Yeah.
Now I got to tell him that's because you're eating meat.
that's because it's been broiled in meat flavor. I could eat that too. Jenny, you ever try the vegan wagon? Could you do it?
I'm not on the vegan wagon.
No,
but I do understand, celiacs or nut allergies and how things can't touch. But
yes, exactly. Thank you.
All right.
So there.
Let's talk about a contest here, okay?
Oh my gosh.
So we have these contests. Some contests you could win maybe a house or a car or some dental work. Well, this contest, a little bit different. What did these people win?
It's crazy. Never ever thought that we would, win a baby, as they say.
Yes, they won a baby, sort of.
Congratulations.
Okay. Allow me to explain. A radio station had this contest. They called it a Win a Baby contest. And the husband, in this case, had a hard time because he went through chemo and had to have his sperm frozen. There's no nice way to say that. But yes, and then so the radio station had this contest where they were going to give away IVF. And make it possible for somebody to have a baby because it's so backbreaking expensive for anybody trying to do this.
Yeah, just one time. But and if it doesn't work the first time, you got to do it again.
Yeah. So this couple right here that you've been looking at, they had this baby, and so now a few months later, this is the reaction when they won. I mean, what
awesome.
bigger thing could you possibly give someone?
You won a life.
That's huge.
Here you go. Take care of it.
And you think of radio, these things they give away. Sometimes it's like, okay, whatever. But I mean, this really is something that is so meaningful to this family because they really wanted this little boy. He's adorable, by the way. I think this was 2017, and he's here now. And I think they are going to do it again, not this couple, but the radio station said it was so successful. They're going to do it again. I think the couple's already won, and they're already starting their round. So by the time it comes out, they'll have a baby again.
It's my favorite contest I've ever heard of.
Let's
Jenny.
win a baby.
I love it.
No, you could give no one anything better, right?
No, absolutely not. And being someone who has had success through in vitro, what a gift that is.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, yeah. That's fantastic. I love that contest.
Me too.
I wonder if you could enter it and then just gift it to someone if you want it. It's like give it to a friend.
Well, you think somebody would enter and get a little nervous, like, I'm not sure I can do this. here's thousands of dollars worth of IVF, friend.
Just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, it's time for my favorite portion of the show. Hit it, Phil.
And now, your Floridian of the Week.
All right, let's show you this week's Floridian of the Week. His name is Douglas Unger. You're about to see him. He was an attempted bank robber. Didn't work out so well. He did not get away with any cash after police say he didn't have a good plan for his getaway car. He tried to hail a cab.
What?
You have one job when you're robbing a bank. You go in there, you get the money, you got to find a way to get out of there.
He did the hard part. He got the money.
I feel like he was halfway there.
That's crazy.
So he was outside trying to hail a cab. Officers got there rather quickly, as they tend to do when you push a button in a bank saying it's being robbed. And he got caught, so police caught up with Unger. They say he was trying to leave in a taxi. When they caught up with him, he is now locked up in the Volusia County
So
Jail.
he eventually got a ride.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the ride he was hoping for.
Yes. And, he had plenty of, he thought, hey, I'm going to have plenty of cash. Why don't I just spend it on a cab?
I'm going to leave
Get
you
out
a
of here.
nice tip, sir.
Don't have to burn the getaway car.
That's crazy. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
I love that he had to hail the cab.
I know.
He didn't have it ready.
He didn't have it ready.
Yeah,
That's a good point.
He had to hail the cab.
Hey, buddy, if you could just wait outside this bank for me. He could have just said that. He probably would have gotten away.
Maybe, but, there's a reason that he's your Floridian.
Yes. Not all the brain cells.
No, but anyway, just don't try that at home.
Yeah.
Or ever, for that matter of fact.
Agreed.
All right.
Let's talk some real estate.
Let's do it. I'm so excited to talk about this because, it's one of those things where you can talk about it, and it's everyone's interested in it because we all need a place to live. And you feel like when you're renting, you're just lining the pockets of someone else. But speaking of high rents, we have a story here in Central Florida where we have one of the highest rents in the whole state. And it's a city that I would not have thought. And we have some sound to explain what we're talking about.
We've got great amenities, tons of new restaurants coming into town. Our schools across the board, just outstanding. So you really can't go wrong anywhere you live in Oviedo.
You're proud of this designation.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yes, and a little bit wishing that we could figure out a way to allow more people to come at more affordable prices, but it's kind of a great problem to have, to be so desirable.
That was a good answer. That's a tough question to answer on
Yeah.
camera because you want your place to be successful and
Sure.
expensive, but then you don't want to sort of overrule the folks who can't afford to get in.
Exactly, or push people out,
Yeah.
who have been there for a while. But Oviedo, that would not be the place I would name right off the top of my head as having the most expensive rent in
Sure.
Central Florida. And schools, as she mentioned, that's a big part of any city being, or any place being popular and successful.
Absolutely. And I think they're talking about rent per square foot, you know, not the highest dollar rent,
Sure,
obviously. But I think what happens is, you know, we get relocation calls all the time for people moving to the area, and they're asking where are the best schools. And because Seminole County and Oviedo High and Haggerty High has such good reputations, they want to get into that area, and we have such low inventory, the only option for them is to rent. And so they're paying a premium for those rentals to be in those schools, and that would be my guess why,
Yeah.
you know, we would be.
And Jenny Wemert lives in Oviedo, so
I
it
do.
probably is a pretty good place to invest in a house at the moment, wouldn't it be?
Yes, it is actually for rental as a landlord and a homeowner.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's safe. It's a safe investment because schools and location. They always say location, location, location when you're buying a home.
Yeah.
You know, you've got the schools and reputation of Oviedo and the growth of the commercial area, like they talked about, all the restaurants and companies coming into that area. It's a great place to buy.
Yeah. And and one of the reasons I hear that it's growing as well on top of the schools and the amenities is they have kind of a no growth. That mayor who we were just interviewing, one of her platforms was, we're not going to let a lot of big growth come in here. And so when the growth is restricted, the prices go up, basically.
Right, exactly. Supply and demand.
Yeah.
So pay more.
Yeah, and so people are wondering, right now, if you wanted to buy a house anywhere in Florida, I know whenever I talk to most realtors, they're always like, market's hot, you know, everything's flying off the shelf. So give me the real nuts and bolts. How are we looking right now? Is it a strong market? Is it a weak market? What's it looking like?
It's a strong market. We're still very much in a seller's market, which means that the sellers are in control. We have very low inventory and more buyers than homes to sell them. So that it's strong in that regard. But it's still possible for buyers to buy. First-time home buyers, it's difficult because there's like zero inventory. Luxury is a little bit more open than the tighter market, which is the low market. But it's still very strong, and it's still safe to purchase. You know, we're working with first-time home buyers. We're telling them you can still buy. Your mortgage is going to be less than what you would pay for rent. It's a stable position in it. You know, if you were relocated or life changes in some way, you're still going to be able to rent the property out, pay your mortgage, and you have the asset. We're not unbalanced as far as affordability goes at this point.
Sure, but I feel like for first-time home buyers, that is they feel it's such a risky thing because anytime you do something you haven't done before, you just don't trust the process, right?
Sure.
So tell us a little bit about, if you're looking at buying for the very first time, what are some definite things you need to be ready for?
Sure. Well, they really have to understand their financial position. So getting a good team around them is going to be very, very important. They need a good lender and a good realtor, and those two need to work together closely for that home buyer. They have to understand how much cash they have to work with and, you know, their reserves, because when you own a home, you have to maintenance the home. And so for a first-time home buyer, they're probably not going to want to get into a home that's a fixer-upper that's going to require a lot of cash out of pocket if they don't have those reserves. So working with a professional that can guide them to make sure they're getting into a home that's low maintenance for the next 10 years and, you know, position them to be able to care for that home, make their payments comfortably, and not have to be married to the mortgage and you know, we see success with that all the time.
Yeah.
But if they work with the wrong people or try to do it on their own, they could end up in trouble because they just don't have the money.
Well, it's interesting the way you've kind of described the market. So a little tougher for first-time home buyers. Prices are higher, and though I've seen this just in our newsroom myself, some of the folks who are younger, just buying their first house, they're having to jump on houses within the first day or two on the market, or they will lose it.
Right.
Now, some of the more established folks I know, somebody who's trying to sell $1 million house, seems like that is trickier right now. Like those houses are sitting on the market a little bit longer. Is that true?
Right. The buyer pool's smaller. However, we do have more money coming into Florida every day because of the new tax laws. But the buyer pool's smaller in luxury. The houses sit there longer. You know, you don't have that many buyers coming into Orlando with, you know, $3 million to spend.
Yeah.
But the buyer pool and the first-time home buyer, you know, they're competing with investors, move down, move up. Like everybody's in that buyer pool. So
Yep.
they have strong competition. That's why they need to make sure that they have all their ducks in a row. They understand what they're doing, because they are going to have to make fast decisions when the good properties hit.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few things that I'd like to unpack a little bit. When it comes to those new open door and whatever.
Right. Zillow has a program where we call them iBuyers. So Zillow has an iBuyer program. Open Door has an iBuyer program. They are large institutional investors that are coming in and buying homes from sellers and then putting them back on the market for the end user. So that is definitely disrupting our market from a real estate perspective.
In a good way or a bad way?
It's it depends. From a seller perspective, they're the ones that are hitting the easy button with the iBuyers. They're saying, come in, give us a cash offer, give us a guaranteed close date, and they feel comfortable with that. If the numbers work enough for the sellers, they're taking it. And these are savvy sellers that are taking these offers. In reality, if they were to put their house on the market with a traditional realtor on the open MLS, they could probably achieve at least 10 to sometimes 20% more to their bottom line selling it on the market, but they will have to endure the showings. They won't know their date, from the beginning when they're going to close. So sellers are saying, yes, it's worth anywhere between 10 and 20% to hit that easy button. And you'd be surprised how many people are taking it.
And speaking of being a disruptor, is Zillow giving people a false sense of what their home is actually worth? Because we get a monthly report and we're like, why is it different this month than last month? We haven't done anything, and it's either up or it's down, and we've not done anything to make any difference at all. Is that giving people who have a home and selling it a false sense of what they should expect for it?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yes. In the short answer, but we have to understand that this is an algorithm. It's a computer telling us what that property's worth. And a computer is not going inside of the home to see that they've upgraded their flooring or their bathroom, or, this month the algorithm has changed because a home down the street with all those upgrades that did all of the work sold. So suddenly now it says, oh, well, your home is now worth that much more. And it's not necessarily always true on the open market when buyers actually go into the homes and see what's in there. Same as, they're getting smarter every day, but they don't know that this is a ski lake versus a regular lake across the road. And, so you can see really big discrepancies on their Zillow estimates or, any AI program that's trying to predict pricing.
You mentioned people coming to the state of Florida. I've heard politicians bring this up a bunch because of tax reasons. I am curious if someone on the ground like you is noticing more people from out of state coming to Florida. I know your area is Central Florida. Are you seeing it a lot, and do you think it does have to do with the tax repercussions?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of money coming into Florida, more in South Florida than we see here. But the fact that we don't have the state income tax, and then there's a cap on what you can write off for mortgage insurance, people from the Northeast are saying, they can almost come here, double the price that they're spending on a property, and almost for free for what the tax savings from New York, New Jersey, and the East Coast.
And there's also some bankruptcy implications as well. Florida,
you're protected. Your primary property or a property in a corporation is protected from bankruptcy.
So we would probably, if someone were thinking one day they were going to possibly go into bankruptcy, it would be intelligent to come to the state of Florida, buy yourself a big, fat,
live out
multi-million-dollar home, sink as much money into it as possible, and then they can't come after it because our state law is protected.
That's correct.
I don't think I did. I didn't. Okay, I'm so glad you said that because I'm like, what is this new?
I found that out on the phone call with her the other day, and I was like, wow, that is a mind blower.
Well, that makes it, because you hear of all these multi-million-dollar athletes who come and they buy big mansions here.
And you think they're just pissing away their money, for
Well,
lack of a better word.
They got some good advice.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They have to establish residency here, though. They
Sure.
it can't be
Yeah.
a second
Sure.
home. It has to be their primary.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the South Florida market, and I just read an article the other day how that is really softening because they have, everyone was getting into the high rises and buying in South Beach or in these different places, and they now have these high rises that are virtually ghost towns. What is happening there?
I'm not in that market every
Sure,
day, so
sure.
it's just, what I'm hearing. But there was a lot of money coming from overseas, and that money has dried up. A lot of the money from China and the real estate investments in New York and New Jersey have been coming down here, and I think that's just starting to dry up. So and I think they overbuilt for condos,
Yeah.
would be my guess down there as well.
But there is possibly a silver lining for people in condos. Didn't something just change with the mortgages in regard to people who buy condos?
Yes, we were excited, again, back to that first-time home buyer. We were struggling to find that price point that a first-time home buyer can afford, and condos have been sitting there at that price point, but the condo prices haven't come up in our area because we couldn't get financing for condos. You had to have 20 or 30% down to buy a condo with financing. Well, that just recently changed. FHA is now allowing us to do spot approvals for individual sales of condos, where before we would have to get the whole complex approved for FHA financing.
Oh my gosh.
So it opens the door up for first-time homebuyers to be able to purchase condos now, and we're excited to see how that's going to go. That's only been a couple of months since that's changed.
Yeah.
And that could really help the prices.
It will help.
hopefully.
Well, it will, yeah. So, want a good investment, buy a condo right now, because now we can actually sell them.
Exactly. So, speaking of good investments, what if you are a person who, I have no interest in being a landlord, but you see these houses that are in great neighborhoods and they come on the market, it's like, that's a great price. I really should invest in that, buy that. What do you say to people who might have a little extra money sitting aside and they don't want to live in that second home, but they just want it because they know it's in a great area and it's a great
Sure.
investment? What do you say?
Buy it.
Call Jenny Wemert.
That's right. I'm a realtor, of course. No, and I'm also an investor, but I definitely, it's because we have such demand for rentals. Rents are high. We just talked about that in Oviedo.
Yeah.
It's a sure thing. We don't have vacancies where you buy the property and you have to worry about how long it's going to take you to put a tenant in there. That's not the case. So as long as the investment makes sense and you can show that you can see a return on your investment, and where else can you buy, let's say a $300,000 house, and you put $60,000 down, you're making a $60,000 investment, but you reap the benefits of a $300,000, but your appreciation is on the $300,000.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, why wouldn't you do it, right? So as long as you can cover the rent, your mortgage and taxes and everything with the rent, it's a no-brainer, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you just see it, in the Winter Park area is what I've noticed a lot in some of these houses, because they're older people have owned them and they've either gone on or, and the family doesn't want it. So they sell them at these incredible prices. And the next thing you know, they're gone like that. And then the person who buys it upgrades it immediately because it hasn't been done, and nothing's been done to it since like the 70s.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden you have this beautiful piece of property and now you have this great house on it, and you just have to have the vision to do it. And I just always wondered if that's a great idea, even if it's a house that needs some work done to it.
The flips are hard to come by right now, to be honest, but there are some still available, and especially in the Winter Park, Maitland area, because there's room to bring those properties up.
Yeah.
The thing that everybody's talking about right now is Airbnb.
Yeah.
And downtown, the city of Orlando has approved Airbnb for, if you live in the property, you can rent out part of the property, or if you have a long-term tenant, they are allowed to Airbnb, at least more, not less than 50% of the property. So what companies are coming in to do now is say to a homeowner, or a landlord, we will guarantee your rent on this property, and we'll put in a subtenant to be there at lower rent, and then we will Airbnb the rest of the property, and we keep those proceeds, but we're going to give you $100 more rent on a master rent policy for, you're using your house.
I want this.
I
feel like everybody, like companies are playing chess and I'm
They
playing
are.
checkers.
I know.
That's what drives me crazy. Like,
I know.
that's the kind of situation that seems just so smart, guaranteed rent
Yeah.
for a long period of time on an
Yep.
investment you own that is appreciated.
But you do have to be
Yeah.
careful because some areas don't allow you to have Airbnb or any of that stuff.
Right, you
Yeah.
have to know the pockets. But it is interesting, in these companies that are coming in, they don't have to have the assets. They're using other people's assets
Yeah, so it's
to
good
make
for
the
everybody.
money and they're assuming that landlord doesn't want to mess around with the Airbnb. They don't want to have to worry about, the putting somebody in there every 2 weeks or whatever it is. So that person wants that stable rent. So they give them what they want with a little bit more, and then they use their asset for the Airbnb to make all the money.
I feel like we're going to be talking after
Isn't
this.
that interesting?
Yeah, you and I need to talk
I know.
alone sometime. So, you're not getting her number. So, Jenny, I know you're not Nostradamus. I could talk real estate all day, but I do want to kind of ask you. I've heard people say, even some realtors say, like, I think we're heading for the nice word is a correction or something like that. It's impossible to be able to tell, but what do you think? Do you feel like we could be headed for some sort of dip in prices? What's the...
I don't think we're going to see a bubble like we saw before. I think if anything, we'll stabilize a bit. The interest rates, we have to keep an eye on those. But if anything, they're going to continue to go down, not up, is what's being predicted. So we'll help offset affordability even if prices are going up. How long this lasts, we don't know, but we're not, it's not going to be like it was in 2006. 2006 was that perfect storm with the loose lending and the crazy banks, and
We've learned our lesson.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a much better position in our homes right now. We haven't crossed over that threshold of affordability. I think we're going to be okay for a while. We are Florida. People are still coming here. We're desirable, and lots of companies are coming. So unless we start to collect inventory, I think we're still going to be in a strong market for a long time.
That's what I like to hear.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
fantastic.
Jenny Wemert, you are awesome and
Thank
very
you. It was
interesting.
fun.
Oh
Thank
my
you so
God.
much.
Sometimes real estate may not be the sexiest thing to talk about, but this was amazing.
Good.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
I'm glad
impacts
you enjoyed.
everybody, and it's one of those things. As you accumulate some money, you can put it in a 401k or in the stock market or real estate. So it's an important aspect. Thank you so much, Jenny Wemert from the Wemert Group. She's Ginger Gadsden.
Hello.
I'm Matt Austin. We got Tiffany Brown producing and Phil Deans
Tiffany.
directing. Check us out next week on Florida's Fourth Estate.